Module 4 Ultimate Self-Defense Fight Plan. The world is not a safe place. Burglary and other dangerous crimes occur every few seconds in the United States. In fact, within the next 20 years, 3 out of every 4 homes will be broken into. With these staggering statistics, it's no wonder that defending your home and family has become a top concern. In a 2003 survey, 45% of people said that some form of home invasion was one of their greatest fears. This fear is understandable. Surprisingly, only 27% of the people surveyed had made any preparations to defend against this threat. At this rate, the likelihood that you will be prepared in the event of an attack is slim at best. Making a plan to defend your home, family, and livelihood is a proactive choice. It's a choice that can mean the difference between life and death. Planning for the worst now will ensure that you are prepared when necessary and will greatly reduce the chances of becoming just another statistic. 3 reasons why having a self-defense plan is important. Standard home-related crimes such as burglary occur with alarming regularity in the United States. These crimes have increased dramatically with the failing economy and high unemployment rates that Americans are experiencing. Reason number 1. The Pareto principle states that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. In business, this translates to 80% of the sales coming from 20% of clients. This principle has been applied successfully in many instances. Survival is no different, except that the rule is more akin to 80-10-10. In a survival situation, 80% of people affected will do nothing. They are waiting for government aid and leadership, which will take weeks to arrive if it does at all. Another 10% will resort to crime, and the final 10% will be those who made preparations in advance. Which group do you want to be in when your life and those of your family could be at stake? Reason number 2. Imagine how much more important a secure home will become in the event of a local or even global catastrophe. Rioting and widespread criminal activity will run rampant. Events in this decade have proven time and time again that crime increases during and after natural disasters. After Hurricane Katrina, for instance, the crime rate increased by as much as 20% locally. Even locations further removed, such as Houston, where many Katrina refugees migrated, saw increases of almost 10% post-hurricane. Hurricane-prone areas are only one example. Tornadoes, severe snowstorms, and widespread power outages can have a severe impact on crime rates in an area. Furthermore, consider the consequences of a global catastrophe such as war, famine, or biological contamination. Although some of these scenarios may seem like stuff of science fiction, experts agree that there are many possible situations that could affect the entire world, or at least entire countries. Reason number 3. Terrorism is a real concern, especially after the September 11th attack. Although the government has done an excellent job of deterring further attacks since then, it was the complacency of the people that allowed those attacks to happen in the first place. Terrorism will always be a real threat. Without a plan to combat the additional threats that these situations can bring about, the chances of survival are decreased drastically. You do not need to be a genius to make a self-defense plan. You also do not need extensive military training. A clear understanding of the basics of home defense coupled with some practice will greatly improve your family's chances of survival when things get tough. 6 considerations before creating a plan. Any solid contingency plan requires thought and preparation. You wouldn't venture off into the Arctic without planning for every possible thing that could go wrong. Planning a self-defense strategy is no different. The more time you take assessing the weaknesses inherent to your home and family, the better prepared you'll be. There are many things to be considered, and proper time should be set aside to assess these things before actually making any changes. 1. The type of residence that you have is a huge factor. Do you rent or own? Obviously, as a renter, you'll have much less leeway when making physical changes, but this does not make you any less susceptible to crime. 2. Do you live in the city, suburbs, or the country? 3. The population density of your home and proximity to others will also be an important consideration. 4. The members of your family are also important to consider. Young children and elderly people may not be capable of performing many tasks, and provisions will need to be incorporated into your plan that allow for them to remain safe. 5. The amount of training and/or knowledge possessed by your family is important. This includes skills such as first aid, firearms testing, and basic survival skills like starting a fire or restarting the generator should it fail. 6. Practicing the self-defense plan is just as important as implementing it. Practice makes perfect, and waiting until an event occurs is not a good time to learn. 3 key aspects of home defense. Home defense is one of the most important aspects of creating a self-defense plan. Every military operation has a base to commence operations. Your home is that base. A fortified home will provide you and your family with a safe place in a dangerous world. Understanding some of the most basic facts about burglary and other home-related crimes can be helpful. Most, as much as 80% of these crimes, are crimes of opportunity. In other words, the criminal does not even have to force entry because the doors or windows are unlocked. Although it may seem like common sense to lock up your home, there's probably at least one entry point in your home that is not secured as it should be. Keep in mind that these figures reflect crimes that occur normally. There are not many accurate statistics for crime during a crisis because chaos can really skew the numbers or prevent recording them altogether. Crime definitely increases during a disaster, and the statistics would be staggering. When looking at the defense of your home, there are a few aspects that should take precedence. The perimeter of your home is especially important. Remember that 80% of break-in attempts are those of opportunity. By securing the perimeter of your home, the chances that a criminal will even attempt to gain access is significantly reduced. 1. Early warning systems. An early warning system should be one of the first considerations. These come in many forms, with the most popular being camera systems and motion-activated floodlights. Using cameras can detect the presence of an intruder well before he or she may become visible from the residence. Remember that a camera system is only worthwhile if you're watching the feed, but just the presence of a camera can scare off a potential intruder. Floodlights will alert you to the presence of movement, but the movement could be any number of things. Think of these more as deterrents than proactive defense solutions. Also, keep in mind that either of these options is dependent on power, and without an alternate power source, they can be rendered useless in an emergency situation. Another early warning option is a dog. The superior sense of smell and hearing possessed by these animals can be an excellent warning system as well as a deterrent. Just about any dog will be a better early warning system than none. A specially trained attack dog would be ideal, but it's not practical in many households. The family pet will most likely hear and become aware of an intruder long before any human members of the home will. Animals do not require an external power source, but they do come with their own set of challenges. Training, veterinary visits, and food should all be considered before deciding to use a dog as part of your home defense plan. Using cameras, a dog, or even a security system comes with one added benefit. By strategically placing signs at the perimeter of your property, it alone can deter many would-be attackers from making an attempt. This property monitored by CCTV, beware of dog, and protected by security system are all effective deterrents whether you have these items or not. The average attacker will probably think better of it and look for an easier target elsewhere. 2. Perimeter defenses. Physical barriers are the most common perimeter countermeasure. A barrier can simply be a fence, which is a great place to post the signs mentioned previously. Other options would be creating a moat or setting up traps along the perimeter of your property. Invisible fences can also be integrated. Although they may not deter a potential attacker, they will certainly give you warning of their approach with enough time to make preparations. If erecting a fence is not practical or affordable, consider using natural items to make a perimeter. Even items such as hay bales or shrubs will make your property seem much less accessible. Even though some people may still make an attempt on your home, with these barriers in place, it increases the chance that they will think twice. Prevention is just as important as planning for an actual encounter. Closer to the physical structure of your home, take a look at trees that may provide easy access to upstairs windows. If they exist, it may be wise to move them to another location. It is also a good idea to cut down low-lying branches, as they can provide an excellent place for someone to hide as they look for an easy access point. Consider planting thorny shrubs or bushes alongside the home itself. This can make it much more difficult for potential assailants to gain access and may even deter them completely. 3. 7 tactics to fortify your home. When perimeter techniques fail or are not practical, the home itself must be fortified. There are many techniques for making your home safer, and they range from basic common sense practices to converting the home into a bunker. Cost and practicality come into play here, and each situation will be different. Use your best judgment and figure out what solutions work best for you. Tactic number 1. Although almost any lock can be picked or broken, ensure that the locking mechanisms on all doors and windows are functional. A broken lock or one that is simply left unlatched provides easy access to the home, especially focus on doors and windows that are not viewable from the street. As many as 60% of all breaches occur via windows and doors along the back of the home or in areas where intruders are less likely to be spotted during the attempt. Tactic number 2. Attached garages are especially vulnerable. Make sure that the door leading to the garage is secured with a good locking mechanism and use it. Automatic garage doors are notoriously easy to open, and if the inner door is unlocked, you're making it too easy for the attacker to gain entry. Tactic number 3. The alarm system is another key component of the plan. Of course, no alarm system is worthwhile if it is not armed. A recent study found that as much as 41% of homeowners with alarm systems did not bother to arm the system. Get into the habit of arming the system at night and when away from the home. When home, an alarm will give you warning and allow you to put your defense plan into action if the alarm doesn't scare away the invader. Professionally installed alarms are very affordable, and many of them can be controlled remotely via a smartphone or computer while you're away. Although it does not provide as much warning as some of the early detection methods mentioned earlier, it can afford you valuable time during a crisis. Tactic number 4. The windows of your home are another weak point. Many homes have sliding glass doors. These are easily broken by intruders. The glass can be replaced with Lexan, which is bulletproof. However, the cost can be extreme and is not always worth the investment. A simple solution is to cut out plywood for these entrance points and keep them stored in the garage. Although this is not a practical solution for an immediate threat, installing the boards during a disaster will lessen the likelihood that your home will be targeted if rioting or other criminal activity ensues. Tactic number 5. Basement windows are also a vulnerable access point. Take the time to secure these by installing bars in front of the glass or by putting plywood behind them. Small basement windows are often not fitted with security sensors by default, and this can make a security system useless. Since these windows are often never used, take the time to secure them properly. Tactic number 6. A safe room is another great tool that can provide additional protection in the event of a security breach. A safe room is an interior room without windows that is structurally sound and stocked with necessary survival items. If retreat is not an option, a safe room can provide extra time to keep you and your family safe. It can be expensive to implement, but it's definitely worth considering if your budget allows. Tactic number 7. Firearms can be a subject of controversy in some households. However, a good self-defense plan should include this tool. With proper training, a firearm is no more dangerous than a power tool and can be the deciding factor should an encounter end in a standoff. Everyone of age in the house should be trained in the safe use of firearms. A good plan is to have at least 2 weapons, a close quarters weapon such as a handgun and a longer distant weapon like a rifle. Shotguns are also an excellent choice because the action is simple and precise aiming is not required. With that in mind, a shotgun can be detrimental in close quarter situations because the wide pellet spray could injure a family member. As you practice using various firearms, you'll become more comfortable with choosing the correct one for a given situation. If a choice is not available, you will at least be familiar with the characteristics of a particular weapon before pulling the trigger. Many intruders will be armed, and it's your responsibility to make sure you are ready for any contingency. 5 personal defense tactics that may save your life. Even when your home is secure, there's a chance that an intruder's assault will not be thwarted. Or maybe you get caught off guard when you're not at home. Either way, learning effective self-defense strategies is another important part of your plan and one that should not be avoided or put off. You don't have to be a black belt in karate to defend yourself effectively. Remember that the majority of assailants will be untrained and driven to attack by outside circumstances. 1. A self-defense class can be helpful, but it is not necessary as long as you understand the basics and have prepared in advance by practicing various scenarios. Role-playing can be helpful for the whole family to practice what to do in an emergency situation. 2. Some tips for practice include pretending that an intruder has been detected along the perimeter, simulating an intruder already in the home, and close quarters combat if face-to-face with an intruder. Practicing these techniques will help to solidify them as habit so that when the situation arises, everyone will be prepared and not succumb to a state of panic. 3. Of course, learning to defend yourself and your family is very important. There's one lesson that cannot be taught, but is perhaps one of the first things to consider when confronted with immediate danger. This is the choice to flee or fight. Having a secondary location is an important part of any defense plan. Due to natural disaster or outright rioting near your property, you should always have a secondary location available that is safe and stocked with supplies. Although fighting for your property is admirable, it is usually safer to escape if you can do it safely. If the situation does not warrant escaping safely, then the only choice left is to defend yourself and your property by any means necessary. A criminal who has forcefully entered your home is not someone to be reasoned with. This is when attack becomes the only viable option. 4. As mentioned previously, a firearm can be very handy at this point. Sometimes, faced with the threat of being shot, an intruder will retreat when faced with a gun. If not, it is your right to shoot, and it is a right you should not hesitate to exercise if needed. 5. If a gun is not available, finding a weapon of any sort will do. A knife, a baseball bat, or even a frying pan can be used in a pinch. Take some time to make a mental inventory of things that can be used as a weapon in every room of the house. This way, you will always be prepared no matter what part of your home the confrontation occurs in. Focus attacks on these 3 areas. You may find yourself in a situation where no weapons are available, or maybe you have been disarmed by the assailant. The human body is very powerful, especially when directing blows to the correct areas. There are 3 main areas to focus your blows. They are 1. The eyes, 2. The throat, 3. The groin, effective on male attackers. A strong blow to any of these areas will stun the attacker at the very least. A stiff blow to the throat can be fatal. Other areas that can disable an attacker are the knees, nose, and back of the neck. Strong blows to these areas may give you the time you need to recoup or escape. Pepper spray can be another useful tool for temporarily disabling an intruder. This can afford you time to attack or even flee the scene if the situation allows. Keep in mind that pepper spray has a very short range and may not be within reach when a confrontation happens. Special considerations for children, seniors, and adults with disabilities. Just as important as making a good self-defense plan is understanding the capabilities and limitations of members of your household. When the home is under attack, everyone in the house must work together to be effective. Talking with the family is the first step. Explain why you are making a self-defense plan and work together to solve problems. Realize that everyone will play a role, no matter how insignificant, and plan accordingly. Small children, senior citizens, and adults with disabilities will not be capable of many of the tasks outlined in your plan. Make sure that in the event of an attack, they are safe. This may be in the form of a safe room, or it may just mean going to a specified place in the house. The key is communication. Having everyone in the household practice where they will go will lessen the likelihood of confusion during an actual attack. If someone is incapable of moving on their own, designate another family member to evacuate them to a safe location. Again, anything that eliminates confusion will save valuable time when you need it most. The important thing is to make an honest assessment of your own capabilities and those of the people living in your home. If the ability to complete a task is in question at all, delegate that task to another more capable family member if possible. There's no shame in doing what is best for everyone's survival. Pride has no place in a self-defense plan. Creating a self-defense plan in 9 steps. Armed with an understanding of the many considerations for making a self-defense plan, the flowing checklist provides a concise way to begin planning now. 1. Talk with your family. Creating a self-defense plan should be a family effort. Whether family lives with you or not, everyone can benefit from having a survival plan in place, and working together will almost always produce superior results. 2. Address the weaknesses in your home. This includes everything outlined above: perimeter defense, security systems, deterrence, doors, and windows. Nothing will invite criminals more than a home that is not prepared. 3. Make an honest assessment of fitness. Take your own health and ability, as well as those of your family members, very seriously. For instance, if part of your plan is to evacuate to a reinforced area of your home, ask yourself how everyone will get there. Do you have an infant in the home? Or maybe someone in a wheelchair? These things must be considered when making your plan. 4. Decide on a secondary location. Figuring out where to evacuate to in the event that your home is destroyed or becomes overrun is essential. 5. Research different quote-unquote force options. A dog, firearms, pepper spray, and handheld weapons should all be considered. Figure out what you are comfortable with and practice using these weapons whenever possible. 6. Practice. Practice running through actions you will take if an intruder gets through the perimeter. Have the family join in. Nothing will make you more efficient than physically practicing what to do when an attack is imminent. 7. Consider taking a first aid course. Even just a basic first aid course is helpful, but if time and money allow, work your way up through the more advanced techniques as well. Medical treatment is an invaluable skill, especially when outside medical response is not guaranteed. 8. Take a basic self-defense class. The basic combat techniques taught in these classes can mean the difference between life and death in a close combat situation. 9. Practice. Continue practicing and improving on techniques. You'll probably see some holes in your plan as you practice. Make changes and make sure everyone is aware of the changes. Then practice some more. This checklist is a basic guideline that will allow you to formulate a self-defense plan that works for you. Each situation will be different, and it is important to keep an open mind when making a plan. For instance, if a flood occurs and your safe room is in the basement, what will you do? By thinking of as many possibilities as you can, you will be better prepared when the moment arrives. As you begin to develop a self-defense mindset, you'll always notice something that can be done differently. This is not a bad thing. In fact, it is an excellent way to improve your plan as you become more familiar with the many concepts of defending your life and property from unknown assailants. Use the checklist as a guide and adapt it as you see fit. Recap. It may seem dreary or depressing to think about what could happen, but as crime rates continue to increase and the global economy remains in turmoil, the worst thing you can do is nothing at all. Preparing for an attack at home is something that everyone should do. Unfortunately, statistics have shown that very few people do even the minimal amount to secure their homes and families. Creating a self-defense plan now and practicing it will ensure the best chances of survival for you and your loved ones if an attack occurs. Being proactive now is the only way to ward off an attack that could occur at any time without warning. Remember these key aspects. Install an early warning system. Put up fences, the bigger the better. Secure your windows, especially those from the basement. If faced with an attacker, focus on hitting them in the eyes, throat, or the groin. With a home being broken into every few seconds in the United States during a time of peace, what do you think will happen when something goes wrong? Complete economic collapse, natural disaster, and terrorism, to name a few, will push these figures to astronomical levels. At that time, there will be those who are prepared and those who are victims. Which do you want to be?
Yo, man, get out of my house. I'm gonna punch you in the nuts. Oh!